첫 번째 강연을 해주실 장청스 중국인민대학교 재정금융학원 원장님을 모시겠습니다. 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm grateful to Financial News for inviting me to give a talk today. And recent research in finance area has achieved a consensus that news media is an important, or statistically speaking, a significant factor in affecting financial market, in particular, the asset pricing. So I think news media, especially financial news, is very important factor in driving financial or in shaping financial market. So again, thank Financial News for inviting me to talk about the opportunities for Korea during the internationalization process of Chinese yuan. And when I first saw this topic of this conference, opportunity and risk, I was thinking the risk for whom and opportunities for whom. And I feel very lucky to discuss opportunities, and other professors will talk about risks. My topic is RMB internationalization and opportunities for Korea. And if you can see my PPT slide, I'm going to talk basically about two things. One is the background and some starlight effects of renminbi internationalization. And then I will discuss some opportunities for Korea during the internationalization process of renminbi yuan. I'd like to start from the general background of this issue based on the Chinese economic development over the past decades. And this is a data organized by Professor Hans Rosling, a Sweden professor. And from this map or this figure, we can see clearly China, the red bubble, the bubble size represents the population size among all of the countries in the world. Chinese economy has been growing very fast, and it has grown from the lower left corner to the upper right. And the horizontal axis represents the income per person, GDP per capita. And the vertical axis represents the health level. So we can see over the past 30 years, China has grown very fast indeed. That's the general background. That's the natural background for recent internationalization issue of Chinese currency. And also if we look at this map, this figure, and it shows more clearly now China has attracted the world attention in terms of economic growth. Although there are many challenges facing China today, but I hold an optimistic view about the future development. In the near future, for example, the 5 years' time, we can still see a new round of economic development in China. We will see shortly why. So in terms of total GDP, this figure shows that China now has virtually the same amount of output as the United States. So all these facts prove that Chinese yuan, the currency of this country, will have an internationalization process during its economic development. And now I give you my data. This is the real growth rate of GDP in China over the past 30 years, starting from the beginning of economic reform in China in 1970s. And if we look at this curve, and we see clearly, during the 1980s and 1990s, China has experienced a very volatile economic growth. But after the beginning of 2000, the nature of the economic growth in China has been very stable and high. But since 2008, as you can see from this figure, the real economic growth rate has been declining over time, over the past 4 or 5 years. So the question now facing us is that what is happening in China? And is its economy in a recession, or it will start to recover from the recession soon? And if you look at this blue line in this figure, it represents long-term, mid to long-term growth path of economic growth in China. And the question now facing us is that after 2004 and this year, next year, will China recover from the past 4 years recession, or it will continue its economic, as Julian just now said, that IMF has adjusted downward the economic growth forecast for China. But if we look at the duration of recession in the history in China, we see the most severe recession in the end of 1990s. It took 6 years for China to recover from this recession triggered by Asian economic crisis, Asian financial crisis. And the recent cyclical downward cycle in China started from 2008. And will it be worse after 2004? So that amounts to more than 6 years recession in China, virtually. So will the politicians accept this or allow this to happen? And the answer probably will be no. And we have seen the government is doing some stimulus to promote economic growth over the past 6 months. And we will see next year, we will see the economic growth in China probably will recover from the recession. And but this is a general background. Also, the past 4 years recession give the opportunity or the motivation for Chinese government to think about how we can promote efficiency in trade, in finance, in international trade, international finance with others. So another fact is that the globalization level, or same thing as trade openness in China, has been growing over time since 1990s. And recently we see that Chinese economic globalization level has reached its maximum, its peak in year 2005 to 2006. Although there is a slowdown pattern over the past 3 years, but in general, the globalization level in China is increasing. And this globalization, the increasing trade openness for China also calls for the efficiency in trade settlement and financial settlement as well. So this is the background for the internationalization of renminbi yuan. And if we look at the real openness for China, and it is more striking. The openness level at constant prices and the globalization level or openness level in China is more striking. And of course, we can look at the alternative other countries' globalization, for example, the United States and Korea. The United States is #1 trading partner for China, and Korea is ranked top 4 in Chinese major trading partners. And all the trading partners' globalization level is also increasing. So this provides some background, some motivation for internationalization of the huge trade volume country, China. And I present this table as the trade percentage of China's major trading partners from 1984 to 2012. This figure, if I summarize the information embedded in this table, we can see the United States, Japan, and Hong Kong, China, has been the top ranked Chinese major trading partners. But if we look at the dynamic changes in the percentage in these regions, we can see the percentage has been changing over time. In particular, the Japanese trading volume with China has been declining. The United States has been steadily increasing. But if we look at the other regions, the other trading partners of China, we can observe there is a kind of diversified trading distribution for China. So this is also the background or motivation for Chinese to promote renminbi internationalization, to promote more uses of Chinese yuan in the world trade. So, to what extent renminbi has been used in trade and finance and capital market? I have calculated, actually the research group in Renmin University has done this research since from year 2012, and we calculated a renminbi internationalization index based on trade, finance, and exchange reserve, and basically three aspects with 5 sub aspects or factors. And if we can see, for example, in trade finance reserve in the world market, everything is settled by Chinese yuan, then this index will be 100%, of course. But no currencies can have this 100% index. So what is the result for the index number for Chinese yuan? Okay, and this figure provides renminbi internationalization index over past 3 years. And we see in year 2012, Chinese yuan, in terms of its internationalization index, it was well below 1%, about 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. So, but over the past 2-3 years, we see there has been a dramatic growth for renminbi internationalization index. And in particular, after year 2003, last year, the index has grown to above 1%. That's a dramatic increase over such a short term. And what about the major currencies in the world? What is, in comparison, what is the index for US dollars, for example, or for euro, or for Japanese yen? And this table provides a comparison between renminbi internationalization level and the world major currencies. We see US dollar still maintains the highest level of internationalization as a world currency, leading currency. Its index is above 50%. So in generally speaking, 50%, more than 50% volume or trade finance reserve are settled by US dollars. 20 to 30% for Europe. And we noticed that for Japanese yen and Great Britain pound has been 4-5%, and for British pound 3 to 4. The Chinese yuan now is 1%. So British GBP and Japanese yen are 4 times larger than Chinese yuan in terms of the internationalization level. So this comparison provides information that Chinese yuan has been used more widely than before. So if I summarize the recent development of RMB internationalization, in 2012, only 1.5% world trade was settled with renminbi, and 1% world capital and finance trading used renminbi. And next year in 2013, 2.5% world trade was settled with RMB, and 2.08% world capital and finance trading was settled by renminbi. And some other development of renminbi internationalization, including in year 2013, Australia and South Africa announced that they will add RMB into their foreign exchange reserve basket. And also we see currency swap contracts between China and Brazil, UK, and Eurozone. And also in Korea, Australia, and the United Arab Emirates, and Colombia, they announced that they will increase the use of renminbi in both trade and finance. And nowadays, a more hot topic or popular topic among Chinese authorities that the offshore construction, offshore market development of RMB. For example, China now is trying to promote RMB offshore market development in Korea, in Brazil, and in some other countries. And we will see more offshore market development in the near future. And here is some specific fact. For example, this figure provides a straightforward impression about trade settlement with RMB over the past 2 years. And the curve in the graph indicates that the percentage of China's trade settled by renminbi to total trade of China has been growing steadily over the past 2 years, from less than 10% in the early 2012 to almost 25% last year. So it seems there is a time trend, and hopefully this trend will continue. China's overseas direct investment, Chinese overseas investment has been increasing in terms of the use of renminbi. So this graph also shows that the percentage of overseas direct investment using renminbi to total ODI has been increasing over years. And this table intends to show you that over the past 5 years, China has developed currency swaps with many countries and regions in the world. The table is slightly messy because the number of contracts has been growing over time. And this is also a signal of more widely use of renminbi. As I said in the start of this speech, news media is now proved closely related to finance. It's a pity I don't have time to show you my recent research in terms of the connection of news media with finance. But I can assure you that the academic research has achieved a general consensus that news report, the news media sentiment and coverage can indeed influence the financial market. And so I collect the number of reports in international news media and how many reports about the importance or about the renminbi yuan in the international media, news media. And the news media coverage results are shown in this figure. And there is a very famous theory called the spiral of silence in the inter-principal research between news media and finance. And it says, basically it says, when news media reports more about something, and this issue will attract more attentions, and probably it will be like what it is reported in the news media. So in year 2008, for example, only 259 news reports covered renminbi yuan, the content, the text involved renminbi yuan. But now, in year 2013, we see over 1,000 news reports about renminbi yuan in international news media, not the Chinese media. So this is also a signal of the attention of renminbi in international society. And the opportunities of Korea, because Korea is the neighbor of China, and I will show you with some stylized facts about the close tie between China and Korea, which is also known to most of us. And then I'll summarize the opportunity of Korea during the internationalization of RMB yuan. According to the relevant statistics, now there is 70 billion renminbi deposit in Korean banks, which is a striking number. And total trade between Korea and China now is 274 billion US dollars. In July 2014, the direct settlement between RMB and Korean won has been achieved in Seoul. So this is a good start for the direct exchange between RMB and Korean won. And over this year, the proposed China-Korea Free Trade Agreement will promote the use of RMB. And I envisage that in the following years, there will be more progress in this issue. So the RMB offshore market in Seoul, according to our statistics and according to some relevant information from Bank of Communications in China, and the offshore market in Seoul may become the most, or at least one of the most influential capital pool of RMB in the world. So I see a lot of opportunities for Korea during this process of RMB internationalization and this offshore development of RMB in the following years. This is the trade of Korea with China. And the trade surplus of Korea to China has been growing over time since 1990s, and we see this surplus has been soaring over the past 10 years. So if we can promote a high level of internationalization for RMB and more use of this currency in China-Korea trade, and I presume the efficiency will be improved dramatically. And the percentage of Korean trade with China to Korea total trade has also been increasing dramatically over years. And nowadays, when you ask Chinese people which brand in car market they like, and probably Korean cars are one of the most popular. So I think the opportunities for Korean industries during this process of internationalization of RMB will be more. This is the figure showing the rank of China in Korea trading partners and the rank of Korea in China trading partners. As I said, China is number one now trading partner for Korea, and Korea is ranked top 4 in Chinese trading partners. So there is a close tie between China and Korea. And due to the time limit, I will conclude by the summary of opportunity of Korea. during this process of internationalization of RMB, we can see the increase. We see the increase of the flexibility of the use of foreign currencies and decrease the risk of currency concentration. Simplify foreign exchange procedure and decrease transaction cost in trade with China, and that's straightforward. And apparently there will be more trade opportunity for Korean firms with China, and this will also enhance the existing cooperation between Korea and China. For example, I see there has already a lot of cooperations in different industries between Qingdao and Seoul, Dalian and Seoul. Another benefit for Korea is the Korea tourism. It also will help the strategic partnership between China and Korea. So finally, bilateral capital investment, for example, more renminbi QFII from Korea to China. And I think these opportunities, behind the summary of these opportunities, we can do a lot of things. And I will see, and I expect to see the successful cooperation between China and Korea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zhang. 네, 장청수 원장님 감사합니다.